What happens to Tish Hyman? She gets her membership revoked. So no wonder she's pissed, Ron. But what I'm saying here is we've got a particular issue where Gold's Gym, them feeling good and comfortable, should come at the expense of 99% of the population. And the LGBT movement should be aware that the T, it trumps everything else. Up until about 15 minutes ago in American society, everybody would have sided with Tish Hyman on this. But now we're at a point where she's the villain. Tish Hyman, a 42-year-old singer-songwriter from Los Angeles who identifies as a black lesbian woman. She is, in fact, a biological female, as I understand it. Happens to be black, happens to be a lesbian. Claims that she was encountered by a biological male in the women's locker room that she had seen in there multiple times before. According to Hyman, she has complained about this on multiple occasions. Others have filed complaints. And she confronted the individual, and this is the videotape that is going viral right now. You may have seen it yourself, but if you have not, let's take a look at Tish Hyman, a woman who quite evidently has had enough.
Gold's Gym! Men! Grown men with big dicks in the women's locker room. And that's why I'm getting kicked out. And I want to make sure the girls know. The fuck? Everybody saw that man in the fucking locker room. No one's saying shit. And I'm fucking done with it. It's fucking stupid. It's dangerous. Me naked in front of a man without my permission. But I ain't the one who gets kicked out the gym, y'all. I'm terminated for not wanting men in the locker room.
All right, there she is, going on a rant that now has been seen tens of millions of times on social media, expressing her displeasure with the fact that she encountered a biological male. This individual, apparently for some multiple of times. We don't know exactly how many times this is. The aftermath of this is Tish Hyman had her Gold's Gym membership revoked, while the person that she confronted reportedly was allowed to remain in the gym. Hyman saying that she felt terrified and violated, that she was naked and did not consent to a man being present. The gym has not issued a public statement as of this time. California law allows people to use the facilities that match how they feel about themselves. So this just out in the news, sort of reinvigorating a debate that has never gone away, that has been with us and that we have examined on this show many times. I now welcome to the program, he is the international streaming star, also our resident show senior correspondent of Common Sense. I speak, of course, of Ronnie T-Shirts, who joins us from Nashville, Tennessee. Ronnie, we have covered a lot of transgender-related stories. And you and I have talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. And when this came up, my first reaction was, quite honestly, I don't know what new there is that you or I have to add to this conversation. I don't know what new there is that anyone can add to this conversation, because the facts seem to be abundantly clear at this point. Things like this are going on all over America. We have already seen the competitive on the field issues, which is a separate issue that we're going to follow up with right after we talk about this, because there's another story going on right now in women's professional soccer that is talking about the transgender issue. Ron, it seems to me that regardless of how much you care about human rights, and I care about human rights, I have had transgender students during my 21 years as a college professor. I understand gender dysphoria is a real thing. Gender dysphoria is real. There are some people around 1%, roughly, who have gender dysphoria and feel that they were born in the wrong body. And that would be a terrible thing to have to deal with. I have human compassion for that. I'm going to treat you nicely. If you tell me you're a she, I'm going to play ball and I'm going to call you she, and I'm going to be as nice to you as I would be to anybody else. Because everybody is deserving of dignity and respect, in my opinion. On the other hand, have we not gotten so crossed up on this issue that is actually quite simple, to the point that it's hard for me to fucking believe that intelligent people continue to go back and forth on this?
So help me understand this California law. So based on what you said and based on what I think I've heard, I can go to California. I can go to any gym in California and I can take my clothes off in a women's locker room and I get to see all the women naked. Like, that's what I get to do. There's no penalty for that. That's pretty fucked up, Ricky. That's like, you got a guy who's an exhibitionist and now he's just going to go to any gym that he wants to, takes his clothes off, and now he gets to see all these women naked to get off, whatever in his head for future times or whatever. Like, I don't understand. Is that what I'm led to believe the rules are there?
We're supposed to believe, and this is, look, I'm not an expert on it, but my understanding as a layperson is that California law allows you to decide where you locker or which restroom you use based on your self-identification. So yes, it would seem to me that there is a loophole big enough that you could drive a fleet of 18-wheelers through it, that any pervert, any voyeur, any exhibitionist, any potential predator, any weirdo can go and do that. And I am not saying that there aren't people out there who genuinely identify as a woman and who are going to that locker room, at least within their heart and mind, for completely innocent purposes. I'm sure that there are plenty of transgender people who just want to locker with the people that are of the same gender that they identify themselves as. But having said that, Ron, you're opening up the door for all kinds of criminal activity, are you not, when you just leave everybody on the honor system?
You said I'm the senior correspondent for Common Sense. So here's some common sense, all right? Let's just pretend that I believe that I'm a woman, okay? And this is just me. I'm not even going to throw this on somebody else. It's me, okay? I feel like a woman. I feel like if I'm going to go into a woman's locker room, because I consider myself to be a very courteous person, I'm going to go into that locker room and I'm going to have made some sort of a commitment to being what a woman looks like, right? You don't get to just put a wig on and some lipstick and say, I'm a woman. That's not how it works. But I'm telling you this, if for some reason I was so pained that I'm in the wrong body and I went into the women's locker room because that's where I felt the most comfortable, I can promise you, Ricky, my junk would not be hanging out in there. I would be so insanely discreet about it because I don't want to infringe and make these other women feel uncomfortable. To me, anytime I hear any of these stories, dude, there's only one answer. Pervert. That guy is in there getting his rocks off. Maybe he's not going to get them off at that moment, but he's putting it in the spank bank and he's going to go home, and that's what he's doing. There's nothing genuine about this. It's just that guy is a pervert.
Well, look, I'm not questioning. Look, the guy that I saw the video footage, and he looks like a guy. So, what you're saying, I suspect, just as an observer, that you're very likely right. I do want to be respectful, however, of the transgender persons who are sincere and they're coming from a sincere place. All right.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So there are people who are wanting to use the other locker room or the other restroom, and they're not going in there to fill the spank bank, as you say.
No.
They're going in there because maybe they feel uncomfortable being in the men's room because they're presenting as a woman. And so the idea of going, I understand that. But here's what I don't get, Ron, and here's where I think that we've gone wrong. This term suicidal empathy that you're hearing going around now, it's becoming more of a word. That one of the big problems the left has, maybe the defining problem that the modern American left has, is this idea of suicidal empathy, where you're willing to go to any fucking length for someone else, regardless of what they've done or the totality of the circumstances or the greater good for society. There are a lot of people on the left, unfortunately, who can't get past the fact that, like, anything that is not absolutely equal, for whatever reason, it's a problem. Like the people who are against ICE. Look, I am against any harassment of any American citizen on the part of ICE. I am not against ICE enforcing actual American law. Okay? And I can have sympathy for some of the people who are being removed from the country, who have not been breaking laws since they got here, other than entering the country illegally, which is breaking a law. Nobody is an illegal immigrant. Undocumented person. Nobody is in that bucket who is blameless. If I went to another country and I just sneaked my way in and I'm there and I'm not paying taxes, or maybe I am paying taxes, but I'm in a place that I know that I went into surreptitiously. If the police in Mexico find me, they have every right to boot my ass back to America because I'm in violation of their law as a sovereign nation. And so, see, this is the issue. Yeah, I know it don't look good. I don't like everything that I've seen ICE doing. And I'm quite certain ICE has done some things that they shouldn't have done here and there along the way. And they should be held accountable for that, quite frankly. But I understand why it's going on. And so then when I look at the broader context here of the transgender issue, here's where I come down on this, Ron. You're talking about an issue where it's roughly 1% to 3% of the society who is affected by it. I saw some numbers today that said it's slightly less than 1% of adults, but it's a little over 3% of people aged 13 to 17 who identify as transgender. You can make your own judgment on how much of that is social contagion and how much of that is being young and trying to fit in, and how many of those people actually have gender dysphoria. That's a separate conversation. But here's what I don't get at the end of the day. All right? If you're a trans person, you deserve every bit the rights and respect of other people, and you also deserve to live your life free from harassment. I'm in favor of unisex restrooms, Ron. There should be unisex restrooms. Those serve a good purpose. Anybody who wants to go into the unisex restroom, go in the unisex restroom and avail yourself of that. But what I don't understand is how roughly 1% of the population, how we have decided that them feeling good and comfortable should come at the expense of 99% of the population. Or in the case of this, every woman. So half of the population. Because we are really talking predominantly about men who identify as women. The trans women issue barely ever even comes up, does it? We never talk about trans women encroaching on men's sports. We don't talk about trans women encroaching on men in particular. Okay, because they probably know what would happen if they entered into a men's space, unfortunately, and I do not condone any type of violence against transgender people or anyone else. Okay? But what I'm saying here is we've got a particular issue where Gold's Gym And the state of Minnesota, with the biologically male pitcher who led the team to the state softball championship, and out in California where track and field events, state titles are being won by biological male. Okay, what they're all deciding is that the rights of about 1% should come at the expense of all women. And all women should feel good about that. And the LGBT movement should be aware that the T, it trumps everything else. And if anybody who is an LGBT person, if you're an LG or B, all you have to do is look at this woman. Tish Hyman is black, who otherwise the Democrats will tell you that they're all for. They'll tell you, in fact, that they're the only party that cares about black people. Well, Barack Obama has basically said this, right? Black men, if you can't vote for Kamala Harris, what's your problem? Joe Biden, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Remember that? She's black. She's a woman, which again, the left is completely all for women until they're not. And they haven't been for women on this issue whatsoever. And she's a lesbian. She's a black lesbian woman, which is generally all groups that the left pays lip service to the fact that they're the side that cares about racial minorities, women, sexual orientation minorities, etc. But the minute that this biological man comes in on the space, what happens to Tish Hyman? It doesn't matter that she's black. It doesn't matter that she's a lesbian. It doesn't matter that she's a woman. She gets her membership revoked. So no fucking wonder she's pissed, Ron.
I thought this was all going to be over, and it's not. It seems like it was dampened for a little bit, and now it's starting to rear its head again. It's almost like it's the only thing that the left has, and you say they're doing this for the 1%. They don't care. It's just it's the thing that they get outraged over at the moment, and they personally just don't care. It's just another way to say, I don't even know, Ricky. I'm just so I can't believe we're doing this again. I just can't believe we're doing this again. It's a divisive
issue. Every group is special and entitled to special treatment, but some groups are more special and entitled to more special treatment than other groups, evidently. Because Tish Hyman is checking every box of woke left identity politics except for the T. And because she doesn't check the T, she's out of a membership because she's a woman in a women's locker room who doesn't want to see a guy's dick. Up until about 15 minutes ago in American society, everybody would have sided with Tish Hyman on this.
Yeah.
Everybody would have said, of course she's right. Everybody would have said, of course she has every reason to be outraged about this. But now we're at a point where she's the villain. I can't accept that she's the villain. I'm not trying to make transgender people villains, but what happens when you ignore basic biological reality is you open the door to situations where bad faith actors put themselves in situations because they're perverts, as you alluded to. And in addition to that, you create a situation where a woman becomes demonized by half of the country for simply standing up and saying, I would like my privacy as a woman when I'm in the women's locker room, which seems like one of the simplest, most obvious, basic human rights that she or anyone else should have. So here's where I come down on this, Ron. Male locker rooms are for people who were born with a dick. Female locker rooms are for people who were born with a vagina. And then we can have a unisex, separate facility that is for anybody who is wanting to walk through those doors as a third alternative. And I think just a little bit of humility on the part of transgender people on this issue would be helpful as well, to understand that this is something that for good reason can make good people uncomfortable. People who would be your allies in a lot of other avenues of life, as I would say for myself. I'm not against transgender people at all, but I'm also not against my daughters. I'm not against my girlfriend. I'm not against my mother. I'm not against women who have a right to and deserve privacy without going into a locker room and wondering if the biological male that's in there is really someone who has gender dysphoria, or it's just somebody who's in there to get their rocks off. That is not a position that it is fair to put women in at all in this country. And you can't say that you're pro-woman if you're not willing to stand up and state that fundamental truth.
Well, I think one of the big problems here is there's absolutely no barrier to entry to being a woman if you are born a man. No barrier to entry. You just say it. Do you know what you have to do if you decide you want to be a firefighter? You just don't get to say, I want to be a firefighter. Like
You can't put on a plastic red hat like Beaver Cleaver.
No.
Just head out there with a hose.
So, I mean, I can give you example after example after example of things that I might want to do or be. And there is a big barrier to entry.
I want one more year of Little League. I want to go back to Little League, and I want to be the Shohei Ohtani.
Dude, you're 10.
Of the local Chicago suburbs.
Just say you're 10.
I identify as 10. And don't worry, I'm not going to go in the locker room, okay? I'll go home after the game. But I want to show up in my uniform. I want to play in the games. And then I want to go home. So don't worry.
No, you want to get Dairy Queen afterwards.
With the kids. Yeah, okay, hang on. I do want to stick around for the Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
But I can't say that I identify as 10, so hand me an aluminum Easton bat and give me a glove. I'm going to go out there and strike out 15 midgets and crank 4 home runs today because that's my identity. That's how I express who I am. It is no less crazy for me to say I'm a woman. If I say then, if by extension, I say, well, I'm a woman. I'm a woman, Ron, and so now I want to go in the ladies' room. How is that any different? How is it any different? I'm stating two preposterous things that are both equally obviously untrue. And if I do think that I'm a woman, then okay, maybe I really do. Then that's something that I should work out with my therapist. That's something that I should receive counseling on about what is the best way for me to go forward and live a life of peace and happiness, and to try to have the sensitivity to do it in such a way that recognizes that my right to live that life doesn't necessarily give me a right to go and make women uncomfortable anytime that I happen to feel like it. Because if you getting your rights scares the bejesus out of women and makes them uncomfortable, how the fuck is that fair? And why should the needs of the many be superseded by the needs of the few?
Listen, dude.
And I say this with all compassion. Some people are going to watch this and they're going to think that I'm just being a dick on the issue. But I'm just being a realist. I've got 5 daughters. I was raised by a single mother. My dad died when my mom was 28. I was raised by a woman. I've got 5 girls. The person on earth that I love more than anybody else, along with my children, is my sweet girlfriend. 7 most important people in my life are all female.
Am I 8?
And I'm going to take up for them. You're you're in the top 10, Rod, probably. I don't know. I'll have to check my power rankings later, but you're definitely going to be in the playoff. There's no doubt about it. You're in the top 12 safely. So the point here is I care about women. That should not make me a bad guy. I shouldn't be villainized, and nobody else should be villainized, and no woman should be villainized for sticking up for herself either. This is the point. There has to be a common sense path for transgender people to get the fairest, best compromise. Because the reality is, if you're not a biological woman, you should have a right to live as presenting yourself as a woman and identifying as a woman. If that's what you want to do, this is America. You have the right to do that, and you should be treated kindly by people. I want to be 1,000% clear on that. But it shouldn't give you the right to turn society itself upside down in search of your happiness. And that's where I reside on the issue, Ronnie. You want to wrap it up for us?
I mean, it's just it's not even the transgender people that there's the problem with. It's the people making the rules, Ricky. And these people are not using common sense. And that therein lies the problem. There's a lot of things that I instinctively want to do, and I don't do them because of social norms and being a considerate person. You and I, if we're talking on the phone or even on this show, we swear a lot, right? We swear, we say fuck all the time. But I'm telling you, Ricky, when I go and visit my mom, when my mom was in an assisted living community, guess what? When I was around all the people there, I didn't swear. I don't swear when I'm in those situations because it's not what you're supposed to do. Even though somebody might say something to me, and my initial reaction would be like, "That's fucking cool." I would never say that because I understand time and place. And all I can think about was when I was in Seattle a month ago, I saw a kid who was clearly a guy that was identifying as a girl. So he was dressed like a girl, he walked like a girl, and all I'm thinking about is that person, 100% to my quick analysis, that person believes that they are a female. And my guess is that they feel more comfortable around females in certain situations. And so if that person were to go into a locker room, I would have to assume that she would do what I suggested is if that person still has a penis, the penis is not coming out in that situation. And that's okay. But I'm telling you, Ricky, I'm telling you, all these conversations that we keep having and all the reports we see, they're guys that are perverts. That's it, dude. They are perverts. And if they're just going in, looking like me or looking like you and dropping trow in a girl's locker room, they are perverts. That's it. And I will die on that hill.
All right, Ron. Look, as I said at the top, this isn't the only issue right now pertaining to this. We've got another one here, Elizabeth Eddy, who is a professional women's soccer player. And as you might not be surprised to know, Ron, I'm not up on my most famous professional women's soccer players, but she wrote an op-ed that appeared in the New York Post last week saying that the NWSL should adopt a defined gender eligibility policy, saying that, for instance, I think that would mean being required as born with ovaries or something like that in the language to play in the women's league. Imagine that. It's a novel thought. Now, of course, because this is 2025, Ron, a woman can't say only women should be in the women's league. No. You're going to get pushed back on that because apparently you're just some kind of total asshole for thinking this. The co-captains of the team that she's on came out, addressed the media, and described her article as having undercurrents of being transphobic and racist.
Racist?
And one of them went on to say
racist?
That it caused hurt and harm in the locker room. Oh, it does not. Listen to this. The team issued a statement. The views in the op-ed are her own only and do not reflect the organization. And they reaffirmed their commitment to equity, inclusion, and belonging. So she got slapped down quickly by her teammates and the league for having the temerity to say that the Women's Professional Soccer League shouldn't allow biological males to play in the league.
Guess
and I've got
Ricky?
a soundbite here, Ron. Before you
okay.
react, Ron, hold that thought just for 1 second. I've got a soundbite of Elizabeth Eddy. Let's go do it now, and then you can react.
Reasonable people can disagree on this topic, but there's no need to go to bullying and name calling because it doesn't set a good example for anyone. But furthermore, these teammates are my friends, and I've known them for a very long time. And in fact, they've been invited to my wedding, and the invite still stands. They have said yes, I hope they come. And I think it's super important to offer an olive branch because at the end of the day, we're all humans, and getting on the same page and choosing to work together, I think, is very important.
So do they not understand there's a danger of a trans male playing against women? Do they understand in a locker room how uncomfortable that situation is? What don't they get?
I would say in the professional sports world, it's really tricky because speaking out is a really difficult thing to do because think about it. The mindset as a pro athlete is I work my entire life for this. I'll do anything it takes, whatever the cost. And then the flip side of that is even if I stay silent, even if I go along to get along, I'm willing to do that to play. So I think at the end of the day, a lot of my teammates, a lot of my peers do agree with what I'm trying to share, but they want to play back more than they want to speak up. And I understand that. And so there's a lot of fear involved because there's a high cost for it.
Ron, I was talking to Tim before the show, and he was informing me that she's had a lengthy career in the league, but she's winding down a bit now. So maybe she's a little bit more positioned to comment because she's not, you know, an all-star player or anything like that at this point. But Ron, the thing that gets me is I don't want to be perceived as an asshole any more than anybody else does. Maybe even less than the average person. Like, I want people to like me. I'm not obsessed with it, but I would prefer if somebody has an opinion of me that it's a positive one. And I don't want to go out of my way to be controversial. You know that. I'm the least hot take person, one of the least hot take people that you know. Yep. And I've had plenty of opportunities on this show to go and give hot takes, and I have chosen not to do it on a lot of occasions because it's just not who I am. And my instinct as a person is more to be a consensus builder than to be somebody that just reams the other side if I disagree with them, even if I think I disagree with them for very good reasons, as I believe in this case. My instinct is still more to trying to find a path forward. Can we find a common sense solution out of this mess that makes the best of the situation for everybody involved? But I gotta call it as I see it. And I think a big part of the problem is there are a lot of people out there who just don't want to do that. They would rather be seen as how nice they are, how accepting they are. They virtue signal. And I understand it. I really do have sympathy for transgender people. It would suck for somebody who actually has gender dysphoria. And again, I have experience with numerous students that I've had private, even painful conversations that they have shared with me. So I'm not just talking out of my ass here. I have some credibility on this issue. I have great sympathy and compassion for these folks, but at the same time, I have great sympathy and compassion for women as well, and you gotta pick a lane on this issue. This is not an issue where everybody is going to be able to get exactly what they want, and at the end of the day, I would rather some people think I'm an asshole and say the truth, even if it's uncomfortable and even if it hurts some people's feelings. And the truth is, if you think you're a woman, that doesn't make you a woman. Any more than me thinking I'm a teenager is gonna make me a teenager again. Or me thinking that I'm a dog is going to make me a canine. It just simply doesn't happen. But now I understand gender dysphoria is it's a real thing for the people that are actually experiencing it. But that doesn't mean what your brain is telling you reflects objective reality. And in this case, sports and locker rooms and public safety, all of this broad area that we keep talking about this issue within, the simplest and correct path forward is to look at what the objective truth is and base policy on that and not on avoiding hurting people's feelings or on showing other people what a swell person you are so that they'll all like you. And that appears to be where we are at. And it is not profiting society at all. It is damaging women. And in the long run, I would argue it is not even helping or advancing things for transgender people. So, Ronnie, what are your final thoughts on this?
Listen, man, there are absolutely tons of places in society to compromise. Professional sports is not one of them. It's a meritocracy. I'm pretty confident that there's probably 1,000 14 and 15-year-old boys that would run circles around every single player in the NWSL. So these girls better be real careful for what they think they want, because if they open this up to anybody that says I'm a girl, 14, 15, 16-year-olds will run circles around them, Ricky. And so they just better be real careful.
Ron, we are one legitimately top-level male athlete from this entire house of cards crumbling down, because that's all it's going to take. I just wish that there was one transgender elite male athlete, because we've seen what the mediocre ones can already do. The mediocre ones can already lead you to a state softball title. They can win the triple jump in California or whatever it was that the individual won. They can go to the Olympics. We still don't know what Iman Khalif's situation is, but I have a feeling you won't see Iman Khalif in 2028 defending that title with testing in the picture now. So whatever the picture is, we've already seen what mediocre, what people who wouldn't even do well competing as males can do to women's sports. I want to see the first legitimately transgender specimen. I want to see the 6'7" Division I level talented male player who comes out as transgender and then decides that they should be able to play in the NCAA or the WNBA, or see that individual in soccer, because all it's going to take is one elite level transgender male to female trans person to make everybody realize that this isn't going to work. And then they're either going to have to admit that everything that they have said up until now is bullshit when that occurs, or they're going to have to sit back and watch that fucking person average 60 points and 30 rebounds a game for the next 10 years and make a farce of their entire league. Because there are any number of major program, not even mid-major program, anybody who is a elite male college athlete, basketball player, could make a mockery of the WNBA for the next decade. And they better hope that that player never comes along, because if that player comes along, the entire illusion gets broken. Just like that. They either have to walk it all back and say, well, you're not allowed to play if you're this good, or they're going to have to sit back and watch somebody with a dick hoist about 7 or 8 WNBA championship trophies like they're Bill Russell. That's going to be what it comes down to, Ron. And I hope that it happens sooner than later, so that we can watch the greatest female athlete of all time, which is what we're going to have to accept that this biological male is at that point.
The only thing I disagree with you.
Let the number 3 or 400 male tennis player suddenly decide that he's a woman. We had Dr. Renee Richards back in the 70s, but this was not a top or even, mid-level professional male. If you're the number 100 men's male player, you'll win every Grand Slam as a woman. You'd win every Grand Slam.
Yeah, dude, the only thing I disagree with you on what you just said was it doesn't need to be an elite level athlete. It needs to be maybe a little bit better than mediocre, because Leah Thomas already proved that a mediocre man swimming can go over to the women's ranks and get up on the podium. So you do not have to be elite. Again, Ricky,
yeah, elite might not be the word, but I mean a top level. Somebody that's capable of averaging 20 a game in Division I men's basketball.
Disagree.
Which I would consider to be
disagree.
elite.
There are kids that are playing D3 right now that could go to the WNBA and win the MVP of the league. I'm telling you, Ricky. I am telling you,
year after year after year. Okay, look,
Yes.
I'm not even arguing with you. You're telling me that my point's even better than I meant for it to be. So I will accept that. The point is, this whole thing is built on lies, excuses, rationalizations, and we're still early in the game. They've already told us that these things don't happen, but we keep seeing them happen.
Right.
We keep seeing it happen in competition.
Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about.
So as it becomes more and more mainstreamed, it's going to happen more and more and more. And eventually, if this road is continued to go down with no detours, women's athletics will eventually just become a sport for guys who don't think they're guys. Because all of the best ones will be biological males, and the real women will be secondary characters in what is supposed to be their entire domain.
That's correct.
And not only will that be pathetic if it happens, it will be profoundly the stupidest thing that I've ever seen occur in American society.